Hello everybody, welcome back to the NicheSportz channel. It's me, Jordan, here for the Super League review, and a bit later on I'll be doing a Super League preview for the next round as well. It's just me this evening, or whenever you're watching this, obviously. But I'll be going through all the games from this weekend, and we'll quickly touch on the NRL League One Championship and all the other little bits of rugby we've had over the past weekend. We'll start then with Casper Tigers versus the Salford Red Devils. The Thursday night game this week, Salford ended up winning that one by 14 points to 6, a lot closer than I think most people expected. I did think Casford would go out there and really give it a go, and to be fair to them, they did. That is what they did. And it was they did make it a very scrappy win for Salford. If you see me looking off to the side, by the way, I've just got a few notes. But perhaps this scrappy win then is something that Salford can be proud of. The champion sides and the top sides always get the wins when they need it, even if they're not the best, even if it's terrible weather, even in the circumstance where everything's against them. And these scrappy wins are what you need to be a champion side. It's really what completes the season, I guess, to get you into them top positions. And Salford did get the scrappy win today, not today, on Thursday, sorry. And that's a real testament to them, sticking in there, very gritty win. Kept it up, and we know now that they are a good side. Looking at these sort of playoff places is hopefully going to be a regular occurrence for them. It has been over the last few years, and these wins will keep cementing that place for them. Touch on Casford, they did look quite good, to be fair, on Thursday. Not picking up the win, of course, but it was an improvement on recent weeks. There was times where they did test Salford. The defence was, to be fair, it stood strong for a lot of that game. Salford they had to work hard for the few tries that they got, and the win in general. But I just want to touch on Casford's left edge, because that has been one place of the Casford team that's really come under criticism at the start of the season, and it didn't look bad on Thursday. They got a try. The try went through the left edge. The defence was good. The signs there that it is looking better, and on a whole, Casford should be proud of that performance, because not just the left edge, but the whole team looked quite a bit better. Was better gelling. It all went really well for them, apart from obviously the end result. But they did well, and they should be proud of that one. But obviously it's off coming out victors 14-6. We'll move on then to Hull FC versus the Leeds Rhinos, a game I was at. It's for Hull the same problem as the derby. They'll let the team, this case Leeds, they're letting teams get the head starts, and Hull, they've got to be real. They're not playing well enough to make up for these head starts right now. They can't be affording to do that. Even no team can really afford to give their opponents a head start, let alone Hull, who missing key players, and that really showed on Friday night. Actually, the lack of Clifford, the lack of Tex Hoy, these key players that really complete the spine for Hull. That it really is starting to show, and Friday again was a time where that did show. So yeah, if Hull can't let teams get the head starts, because they did look better in the second half on Friday night. To be fair, 10 points were scored, which doesn't seem like loads, obviously, but it was a huge improvement on the whole derby and the first half against Leeds. So if they stop letting teams get these head starts, it's potential that they could get back to winning ways quite quickly. Then we've got Leeds, who obviously a brilliant performance from them. Take nothing away from them. Hull, yes, didn't play well, but Leeds did play quite well. That second half, maybe again scrappy for them. A lot of errors, but that was mainly probably down to conditions. Very wet and rainy night in Leeds. But in particular, Tom Holroyd and James McDonnell, the future is bright for Leeds. They've got some great youngsters there. Tom Holroyd scoring twice in that first half. James McDonnell getting on the score sheet. The youngsters are doing very well for Leeds right now, getting stuck in, looking like the better players in that side, and that's always going to be a positive sign. The future is definitely the youngsters at Leeds are definitely players to watch. That is for sure. Particular Holroyd, particular McDonnell. McDonnell's not really getting the plaudits that he probably deserves. But he did very well on Friday, and 3 tries in his last 3 performances. Scoring very well for him and the whole youth at Leeds in general. But yeah, Leeds winning that one 34-10 in the end. Huddersfield Giants versus the Catalan Dragons also on Friday night. Huddersfield winning that one by 12 points. I think it was a crucial win for Huddersfield. Obviously, they did lose to Leeds the week before in not great circumstances by a drop goal, or should I say by 1 point, because it was actually Huddersfield that kicked the drop goal. And obviously the game management wasn't too great in that game, but it really improved against Catalan. Catalan are not a bad side at all. Add a lot to this league, regardless of what Keith Cougar's owner says. And they're a very good side. So for Huddersfield, this was a really big win for them, and a really impressive win considering their form, which is very obviously quite up and down. Perhaps it's a sign that Huddersfield are starting to find their feet. Obviously, that there is that inconsistency, but a win like this is, a potential season starter for Huddersfield, who have, based off last season, got off to a slow start, but still are doing quite well. But this could really start something for Huddersfield. I'd expect them to bounce on a bit from this win. And yeah, very impressive from them. Catalan, I would say they again didn't look awful on Friday night, scoring 14 points. They did have an early lead, but let it slip. I think for them, their issue is their lacking leadership. James Maloney obviously left last year, and it feels like that leadership that he had all the time, Catalan haven't really been able to find that in someone else this year, and that's not always an easy fix. But if they can get it fixed, they've got a team there that is going great. They're high on confidence. Admittedly, they may be not too happy. Well, then you're never going to be happy with a loss, but this loss may not be one that they're too happy about as such. But they've got a team that are very good. Have proven they're very capable in this league. Over recent years, been fighting at the top. So they get that leadership again, and they're gonna be a top side. I think it is that lacking of leadership that knocks them just a bit behind some teams, like on Friday night against Huddersfield. But again, take nothing away from Huddersfield. As I said, a very impressive performance from them. And it takes a lot for a team to beat Catalan, which is a testament to Catalan themselves, really. But yeah, Huddersfield then do end up winning that one by 26 points to 14. We go to Hull Kingston Rovers versus St Helens. Hull KR. Wow, they end up beating St Helens on Friday night. And what a win it was. Saints, yes, they haven't had a great start to the season. It's been below the standards that they set themselves. And perhaps, well, they are obviously going to be disappointed with how it's going. But Hull KR and any team that beats Saints, a lot of credit deserves to be given to them. Saints are still a champion side. And for Hull KR, I think it's very clear what is helping them. It's that halfback partnership and Mikey Lewis and Jordan Abdul, two absolutely brilliant players, both from the England squad, absolutely deservedly. They're potentially fighting for them halfback spots in the England side. And if they got them, you'd have to hold your hands up and say that's not a bad decision. But are they the best halfback partnership in the league right now? There's an argument to be had there. They are playing absolutely brilliantly, and they're turning the games for Hull KR into games that are really going in their favour. To turn around, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they were behind at half time. It's incredible from Hull KR to have picked up a win. and they're up to third or fourth place, I believe it is now. So the sky is really looking like the limit for them. As for Saints, we touched on it last week, but there is a lack of attacking intensity in that side, and that's not something we're used to seeing from a Saints side, particularly not since the end of the Kieran Cunningham days. But it is something that has been a consistent issue over the last few games. Paul Wellens, is he going to be able to get a grasp on that? Now, I said it also last time, we do look at the start of Christian Wolfer, and they have similar problems with being a bit hot and cold, misfiring occasionally, but they always bounce back. And Saints, once they get these little issues like attacking intensity and them little blips, maybe the discipline, the lack of Morgan Knowles is crucial, and I think it showed against Hull KR. But it's them little things like discipline and attacking intensity that just holding Saints back from still being that top side that is untouchable. And they're not in the playoffs right now, we're Saints. So it's a very disappointing start to the season for them, potentially still a bit hungover from that win against Penrith in the World Cup Challenge. But yeah, I think Saints are going to turn it around, but a disappointing result at Craven Park on Friday. We move into the televised game on Friday night, Warrington versus Wigan. Warrington fall into their first loss of the season, and I think that is really because of the mistakes that was made in that game, particularly in the second half. There was lots of mistakes from Wyatt, which is uncharacteristic of them this season. But to say that, they stuck in the game really, really well. But this is that was a crucial game there where Wyatt could have really, really extended their place at the top. Instead, the gap's come down to 2 points now, with Wigan really pushing. But as I say, these mistakes for Wyatt are not something that's been characteristic of them this year. And I think it may have just been a one-off game, maybe nerves of having such a big game. Obviously, they beat Catalan the week before, but going down to the south of France takes a lot out of the side. I've trust it wasn't out of the south of France. Or if it was, anyway, playing Catalan does take a lot out of the side. Home or away, they're very athletic side. But these mistakes for why maybe a tiredness, maybe nerves, I think that may be down to the reason they lost that game. And again, I've said it a few times in this review, but take nothing away from Wigan, because they are a team that are really, really starting to play their best rugby now. They are on the rise. They've got a team there that is really, really gelled. We saw it under Matty Peat last year. There is a lot of gelling going on there, and I think that's set to continue. And I think they really showed it on Friday night. And are Wigan now in that title fight? They've got to be. If you say they're not, then where's your evidence of that? Wigan are looking just as good as Warrington over recent weeks, and with that loss, Wigan could really bounce on from that. But yeah, Wigan winning that one by 13 points to 6 in that top of the table clash. Then the final game of that round, we've got Wakefield Trinity versus the Leigh Leopards. Leigh winning 32-0, which Wakefield's 5th nilling in the first 9 games. People talking of them being the worst side in Super League history, and it's really looking like that. There's really nothing there for Trin at the moment. The attack is poor, the defence is also poor. Getting nilled 5 times in first 9 games is almost unheard of. That's really, really terrible. Remember, defence is. That obviously proves the attack is poor. There's you're not even getting your likes of Mason Lino in there, your key players. And we said this before, me and Dan, but Lino's one of these players where he needs something to run off, to bounce off, to really get the best out of him, and he's not being provided with that. So he is being a bit of a wasted talent right now for Trin, and that's unfortunate to see. But the defence is probably worse than the attack. The second worst defence in the league now, and they seem to be holding on for the first 10 to 15 minutes of a game, or longer. I think it's 25 minutes in the case of Wakefield Leigh. Whether they're going set to set, the defence is holding on, And then as soon as that first try goes in, the head drops. And, you know, Mark Applegarth touched on the lack of confidence inside, and, you know, it's really showing. Stuff like that is because of the lack of confidence. But it's where does it change? Is Mark Applegarth the right man for the job? Obviously, Wakefield have said he is the right man for the job despite everything that's going on. But, you know, Hull FC or Casford get a win again and they're 6 points adrift. Hull FC Wakefield looking like a huge game on the 11th of May. I'll be there for that one, and we'll see just how it goes. But you know, it's dire times for Wakefield, and it did not get any better on Sunday. Lever, you know, Charnley again on incredible form, scoring twice again, extending his lead at the top of Super League's try-scoring charts. I think everyone was a bit shocked to see that he hadn't been recalled to the England squad, especially considering arguably arguably player on the best form this year in Super League, fighting with the likes of George Williams, who ironically got captaincy in the England squad. And I think it's very unlucky that Charlie didn't get that call up to the England team, you know, proving it on Sunday once again that he's a top player, even if it is in maybe not one of the top sides in Super League. He's brilliant, and he's really showing that he doesn't seem to have lost much of his form from when you could say his prime days at Wigan. And you know, it's a real testament to Lee to have that signing, and he's turning the tide in attack. He's finishing off the good moves. He's all over the place and doing exactly what Lee need. And he's not the only one. The whole Lee team is working together as a unit, and you know that's what you need to win rugby league games. So I think they'll be very proud of that one with Lee. Yeah, well done to them. It finished 32-0 to the Lee Leopards. Now, we're just going to have a look at the other scores of this weekend. We'll start in the championship then. Toulouse picking up a 34-6 win over Keighley. They look to have refound their form after a huge win against London on the Easter weekend. Batley beating Bradford by 21.16, a huge win for Batley, who haven't been as good as they have been in the past few seasons. Halifax picking up a scruffy win against York, 16-6. London 10, Featherstone 40. Featherstone, you know, still going strong at the top of the table, and maybe this is finally the year that they do get promoted. They're looking to be a very good side. Maybe not as good as they have been over the past few years, but they're grinding out them results and picking up points all over the place. Newcastle then, one of the expansion sides in the championship, losing 31-6 to Whitehaven. Newcastle have lots of Hull FC youngsters at their disposal. You know, you've got Connor Wynn, quality player, Deneve Barmforth, quality player who, in my opinion, should be in the Hull FC team right now. And they're not picking up the results, which is disappointing for them. Then the final game of the round in the championship, Widnes beat Barrow 23 points to 14. The Widnes are going well this year, comfortably in the playoffs. And then the final game of this round was Sheffield Eagles 16, Swinton Lions 6. Sheffield Eagles picking up a scrappy win there against Swinton, who are struggling to find points and good form at the moment. Then the rest of the games that we had this weekend in League One, we had London Scholars and West Wales Raiders was postponed on Saturday afternoon. On Sunday, we've got Dewsbury Rams with a comfortable victory over Cornwall, 78 points to 10. Doncaster 26, Oldham 22, Hunslet 48, Midland 6, Rochdale Hornets 28, Worthington 29. I just want to touch on that final game actually. Rochdale Hornets had a huge 22-8 lead at halftime, and Workington managed to turn it around there to pick up a 29-28 win. So a huge result there for Workington. Then we've got the NRL results. I watched Thursday's game between the Dolphins and South Sydney. That game finished 36-14 to South. The Dolphins had a 14-6 lead at halftime, but South's really turning it around. And it was crucial that when the Dolphins had a player binned, South scored 4 unanswered tries in that period. And that really was the difference, showing how rugby league is a crucial game for discipline, not only over here, but also in Australia. Then we have on Friday, we've got Cronulla 22, Sydney 12, Manly 18, Melbourne 8. Melbourne really struggling this season by their high standards. New Zealand 22, North Queensland 14, Newcastle 15, Penrith 16, Gold Coast 26, Brisbane 43. Brisbane extending their lead at the top of the table. They are back to their best. Then Sunday's games was Canberra 20, St George 14, and Parramatta 30, Canterbury 4. Canterbury picking up quite a bad injury to their winger in that game, and they lacked the attacking intensity and the tries to get a win over Parramatta. Then the wheelchair rugby league. It was a wheelchair rugby league magic weekend this weekend. London Roosters lost to Leeds Rhinos 64-32. Hull FC lost to Warrington Wolves wheelchair 76-10. And Halifax Panthers wheelchair did win 62-28 over the Wigan Warriors wheelchair. A good weekend there of wheelchair action, which is obviously on the rise after the World Cup. Then we've got the women's rugby league, which returned. Huddersfield 0, Leeds Rhinos 80 in a dominant display there by Leeds, who are obviously one of the top sides in the women's game. York Valkyrie 26, St Helens 6. A big win for them. St Helens obviously one of the leading sides in the women's game as well. Warrington 22, Wigan 22, a draw there, tight game. Then we got into Group 2, Featherstone 30, Barrow Castleford 8, Salford 20. And then I want to touch on this game, Bradford Bulls 12, Lee Leopards 12. Lee Leopards' first point in a professional game of the Women's Super League, and a conversion by a 17-year-old after the final hooter to draw the scores. Lots of composure, and Lee Leopards seem to have a bright future in the women's game ahead of them. But it's also quite nice to see that the games were all quite tight in this weekend's women's action. And that's perhaps something that we've not seen so much in recent times in the past few years. And it's quite a new game. The quality maybe isn't there yet, but it's still a really good game, and it's good to see these games are getting much closer. That's a testament to the talent that we've got in women's RL. Right, previewing next week then, I'll do the Super League. Saints versus Wolves is Warrington Wolves is the Thursday night game. Saints obviously coming off the back of that difficult result at Hull KR. Warrington also losing for the first time this season against Wigan. I think Warrington are going to bounce back. They've looked a brilliant side all season, and to be fair to the amount of errors they made, they managed to stick in that game against Wigan. And they're still looking like a champion side. They're starting to look like a champion side, I should say. Saints is going to turn around at some point, and they're not a bad side. It's very important to remember that they are not a bad side, and they will put up a fight on Thursday. And I would say they'll look better than Hull KR. Obviously, still missing Morgan Knowles, and I think that's going to be a crucial loss for them. Such a good player and such a key player, and I think they will suffer without him. I'm going to go over Warrington Wolves will pick up the win by 10 points against the Saints. Friday night, we've got Lee Leopards versus Leeds Rhinos, two sides who are in decent form right now. Leeds coming off the back of a huge win against Hull FC, where they looked really good, especially in attack, and the defence held strong for the majority of the game, and obviously beating Huddersfield the week before that, which is a huge win. Lee, people have been waxing lyrical about them, one of the best sides to be promoted ever in Super League, and their win at Wakefield was dominant, absolutely in cruise control last weekend. For this one, I'm going to go with a bit of an upset, I think it would be. I'm going to say Lee Leopards by 6 points against the Rhinos on Friday night. Also on Friday night, we've got Castleford Tigers versus Hull Kingston Rovers. Castleford Tigers, as I said, looked better on Thursday night against Salford, and I think that's something that's going to be a steady rise. Still not got a full-time head coach yet. Andy Last still in charge. He's got that little bit extra time. I think most people were expecting a new coach to be in place by Friday, and obviously I'm doing this on Tuesday, so there may be, but I think that's unlikely. And Casford will push on now, I think, from that result on Thursday. Hull KR, the sky's the limit. Brilliant season so far for them, absolutely brilliant. The halfback partnership will be be crucial throughout the season to keep these good results going. And I think on Friday, again, they'll show their class, their dominance, and their power. And I'm going to go with a Hull Kingston Rovers victory here. I don't think that's much of a shock. I'm going to say Hull Kingston Rovers by 16. Then on Sunday afternoon now, we have Salford Red Devils versus the Catalan Dragons. This game kicking off at a slightly earlier time of 2:15 due to the government's government's emergency alert testing on phones. I think it's a very good game, this one. It's very hard to call. Catalan obviously coming off the back of a result of a loss to Huddersfield, which maybe they should have avoided based on Huddersfield's form. But it's still early in the season, it's not make or break, and Catalan are still third in that title race, in that title hunt. Salford, also looking very good, a very scrappy, but as I said, a very impressive win on Thursday against Castleford. And you'll be looking at the key players again, your Ryan Brierleys and that for Salford to step up here this afternoon. Your Mark Sneed, your Brodie Croft. Brodie Croft, by the way, I didn't mention it earlier, but he had a brilliant game on Thursday, and he was playing on antibiotics after having an illness all week. So that is not your best Brodie Croft, and he still looked very good. I'd pick him to be better in this game, and I'm gonna say I'm going to say Catalan win by 8 points. Then we have Wigan Warriors versus Wakefield Trinity. Well, I think it's fair to say this game will only go one way. Wigan on the rise, looking brilliant in attack and defence. Liam Marshall on stunning form as of late. Wakefield, the complete opposite, on terrible form. Nothing's going their way. Nothing in attack, nothing in defence. Trin are in trouble. And for this one, obviously, earlier in the season, the same fixture took place at the DW Stadium in round 2. Wigan winning by 60 points to 0. I think it'll be a similar scoreline here. I'm going to say Wigan by 46 points against Wakefield. The final game of round 10 of this season, then we've got Hull FC hosting the Huddersfield Giants. Huddersfield coming off a back-and-back impressive win against Catalan. Hull FC coming off the back of that loss against Leeds. Hull FC, though, that second half was good for them. Still outscored by Leeds, but a massive improvement. Huddersfield also a huge improvement on the week before where they lost to Leeds. Could a similar theme happen here where Hull FC massively improve and pick up a win after losing to Leeds? I find it unlikely, but who knows? There's been a lot of weird results this season so far. But I think Huddersfield will have that edge. Hull FC low on confidence, poor form. Huddersfield is not the sort of game that they will have wanted to pick up a win before the international break. So I'm going to say for that one, Huddersfield Giants by 18 points to beat Hull FC. And that is it then. That does clear up all the games of action from last week and this week. I'll have a quick run through the score, run through the fixtures for next week, and give my initial thoughts without too much, sort of analysis. South Sydney will be playing Penrith in the NRL on Thursday. Pick Penrith to win that one narrowly. York City Knights, Newcastle in the Challenge Cup. Well, the challenge, that is a big game there. It's York, and York are in okay form, not great. Newcastle in poor form. I think York will pick up the win. That'll put them in, obviously, the quarterfinals, semi-finals, of the 1895 Cup. I'm going to say York by 16 in that one. Parramatta to play Brisbane in the NRL. I'm going to say Brisbane to pick up the win there. Then also in the Challenge Cup on Saturday, we've got Halifax Panthers versus the Bradford Bulls, a game I will be at. That game kicking off at 7 o'clock at the NBI Share. And it's obviously a local derby. It's always a tight game. They're close in the table. This game really could go either way. Bradford picking up the win a few weeks ago when the two sides met. This game will be tighter, closer, and more intense. The game is live on the Sportsman. I'm going to pick Halifax to pick up the win here by 8 points. Bradford losing at the weekend, Halifax picking up a win. That form and that confidence, crucial in knockout Challenge Cup ties. So I would say Halifax to pick up the win there. The NRL on Saturday, Canterbury versus Cronulla. I'd say Cronulla win that one. North Queensland versus Newcastle. I'd go North Queensland to win that one. In the League One, London Skolars versus Dewsbury Rams. I'd say that Dewsbury will pick up a fairly comfortable win here. London Skolars obviously having a week off last week, but Dewsbury picking up a hugely confident win. As I said, Dewsbury will continue on in their way in League One and pick up another win there. Got loads and loads of community games next Saturday. We'll be reviewing them in next week's review. But there is loads of games there. It'll be great to see community teams back in action after a disruptive few years. So that'll be good there. Sunday afternoon, then we've got two more Challenge Cup ties: Batley Bulldogs versus Keighley Cougars at 3:00. I would say that that game is also another tight one. Could go either way. Batley picking up a huge win against Bradford. Keighley losing to Toulouse, but Keighley haven't looked bad at the start of his championship season. Arguably better than recent teams that have got promoted from League One to the Championship, such as Swinton, for example. Batley, though, they know how to do these knockout ties now. They're used to it. They're used to these big games, and that big game experience will be crucial. And for that, I'm going to say Batley to win this one by 12 points. That will put them also in the 1895 Cup semi-finals. Obviously, the first tie would be York versus Halifax. The second tie, the fourth tie, or what will make the second tie of the 1895 Cup semi-final. We've got London Broncos versus Dewsbury Rams kicking off at 3:05 on Sunday. Dewsbury obviously down into League One, but absolutely rampant displays so far. Comfortably the top and destroying teams such as Cornwall last week, 78-10. London Broncos started the season really well, but they've certainly dropped off since then, such as the loss against Featherstone, and that's always going to be a tough game. But a loss by 30 points will not please London based off their first few games this season. It's been them sort of results. Maybe not walkovers, but them sort of disappointing results since the first few rounds of the season, which maybe London weren't expecting after the two wins at the very start. And I am predicting an upset here. I'm going to say Dewsbury Rams will pick up the win by 8 points. I think it will be a tight game, a low scoring game, very close, but I do think Dewsbury will just have that edge to get themselves into the next round where Super League teams obviously join, and will get themselves into the 1895 Cup semi-final, which, a reminder of them ties, if my predictions are correct, would be York versus Halifax and Batley versus Dewsbury. Two very, very good games there. Moving on then to the last three games, I believe it is, of the weekend. Yes, we've got Hull FC Wheelchair versus London Roosters Wheelchair. I'm going to say Hull FC Wheelchair to pick up a win there. London Roosters getting beat by Leeds last week in the Magic round. Hull FC comfortably beating their opponents last week, and I think it will be a comfortable win, or as comfortable a win for Hull FC, but I do think they'll pick up the win this coming week as well. In the NRL, the last two games, we've got Redcliffe Dolphins versus Gold Coast Titans. I'm going to say Redcliffe to pick up the win there. Disappointing result against Souths, but the start of the season very well, and a brilliant decision to pick them as an expansion team. Then we've got West Tigers versus Manly Seagulls. West Tigers struggling to get the points on the board. I'm going to say Manly to pick up the win there with the likes of Daly Cherry Evans really stepping up and being that crucial difference that Manly might need. Although, as I say, West struggling. When will it turn around? We touched on this a few weeks ago, and it doesn't seem like much is changing for them. But a result's got to come soon for Wests, and it is only a matter of time until it does. So then, without further ado, I believe that is it for this week's review and preview. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching today's content or listening to it. It's going around your everyday business or whatever you're doing. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be back in a few days for more rugby league content and everything else you can see here on NicheSportz, including boxing, basketball, and ice hockey. Thank you for watching again. I've been Jordan. Cheers. Bye.